Hello, Kiki Cannon here, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be going over how I created the Zelda belt out of foam. Here are just a few things you will need for this tutorial, including a heat gun, paper for your pattern. Please do not forget safety equipment depending on what glues and stuff you decide to use. You can also use different paints, glues, foam sealants than what I chose. This is just what I'm going to be using in my project, so I hope this helps you with whatever foam project you might be working on. I will also be using 5mm craft foam as well as 2mm craft foam for this project. I've already created my patterns on the computer and printed them out. Feel free to create your own patterns. You can freehand them on the foam if you're more comfortable with that. You don't have to do this step, but I do recommend it for the next step. Alright, now that your patterns are done, feel free to trace them on the foam. I'm just going to go ahead and trace the outside of this bottom belt piece and tape it down. Then I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and we are just going to lightly kind of go over the lines. Make sure not to cut through the pattern for this part. This is just to add the details. You can always trace your pattern on your foam another way. I just find that this helps me as a guide. Feel free to do it this way or whatever way that you're most comfortable with. Once I have all my detailed lines traced out, I'm going to go ahead and use a ruler as a guide to draw the outside lines and cut them out using a ruler as a guide to make sure my lines are straight with my X-Acto knife. You might need to sharpen your blade or replace your blade, and after it's all cut out and your pattern's on there, we're going to go ahead and heat it up with the heat gun to get all those lines to really pop, and you're going to start seeing the detail and also be sealing the foam. If you find out your lines aren't exactly perfect, you can always go back and just refine them a little bit and heat them up. If you wish to skip this step entirely, I do sell the full kit on my Etsy, which also comes with the brooch. You will get all the pieces already pre-cut with all the lines and everything. So after you've traced all of your pieces, make sure they're all heated up front and back. All the foam is heat sealed. Alright, now that all the pieces are cut out and done, we're going to go ahead and measure your waist where you want your belt to fall, which is 33. So we're going to take that measurement and we're going to divide it on 2 for the 2 halves. If you bought the kit, this is how the kit comes. So you're just going to divide the excess in half and cut it off on each side so that way it's even and your seam will be evenly in the back. So after we measure it here, I'm just going to take a ruler to make sure my line is straight and cut off the excess on that end. Alright, now that I cut off one end, I'm just going to go ahead and take that end and trace it so that the other end will match. Alright, now that I have my pieces cut to the size that I would like, I'm going to go ahead and use contact cement. Please wear a mask. You can add this on a better way than using a popsicle stick. This is just what I'm using for now. And I'm going to go ahead and put it very lightly on both ends and wait about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes is done, we are going to push them together, and that's going to be a strong enough hold to where that will not come off. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our other pieces. This is our buckle, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on one side. If you want to do both sides for this, which I didn't do, go ahead and trace the design on the base part to make sure to glue on both sides for better adhesion. It will work if you don't, but if you really want a good bond, make sure it's on both sides. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and start sealing the foam. For my sealant, I chose to use Flex Bond. You can use a variety of other things, but if you decide to use Flex Bond, it is not toxic at all. You do not need a mask or gloves when working with it, but please wash your hands when you're done working with it. I like to dilute mine with water to kind of get a more even Don't forget to get the edges and the sides as well as the top, and try to make sure your coats are pretty even, and if it seems too thick in one area, don't be scared to dilute it a little bit just to try to smooth it out. Make sure to let the Flex Bond dry in between coats. If you really want to use more than 3 coats, you can. I'm just using 3. I would recommend 3 as a minimum, depending on what look you wanted to use. You don't have to do this. But once it's completely dry, we're going to be ready to paint. I'm using acrylic paints, and I'm using Deco's Art Dazzling Metallics for my gold. I did also live stream this on Twitch. So if you have time and you want to pop in, I do stream every Tuesday to Friday on Twitch, creating different kits and cosplay things, so feel free to come hang out. For the belt, I use Apple Barrel's brown paint, just the cheap 50-cent dollar paints, which worked really well. It already had kind of a warmer hue with a little bit of reds in it, which worked for the leather look I was going for. I did about 3 to 4 coats of color before I started adding in any shading, and I just use variants of black and dark brown to kind of get in around the lines to kind of do a little bit of shading. You can also do this with an airbrush if you have one, which would probably be a lot faster than doing it by hand. Now that you have everything painted to your desired effect, we're going to go ahead and glue everything together. So for the end pieces for the belt, I'm going to go ahead and put concrete cement on both sides and make sure to trace where I want it to go so I know where to put the concrete cement on the belt part. So after I have it all traced, I'm going to go ahead and wait about 15 minutes before I adhere them both together to get them clamped down. So that part's already connected, and now we're going to go ahead and add on the buckle part to the belt part, and we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're just going to go ahead and trace it down to figure out where we want it. If you want to do this step ahead before you even start painting, it might be beneficial, but if you already paint everything, you can still do it afterwards and it will be fine. After we waited the 15 minutes, we're going to go ahead and glue the belt down to that part, and now we're going to go ahead and add on the loose piece here, connecting the bottom of the belt. And we're just going to do the same process where we're just going to put a little bit of glue on each side and wait, and then go ahead and stick them together. Now that this part is done, we can go ahead and do the last step to make the belt wearable, which is adding the Velcro. So we're going to do the same thing where we're going to put glue down, and I like to put the fuzzy side facing out so that if it rubs on your costume, it will not ruin it in any way. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 strips, and I'm going to go ahead and mark on the belt outside where the rough strip is going to go. And this is how the belt is going to connect. So after we waited, I'm going to go ahead and just put that down, and any excess you have, you can just go ahead and cut off with scissors. And now the last piece, we're just going to put on the last piece of Velcro, and we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. You can go ahead and cut off any excess, and that way the belt can be folded and wearable, and it gives you about an inch of leeway. So if you measured well, and it should fit pretty good, and if you have your costume on, it might give you a little bit of space. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. All the links are below, my Twitch, my Etsy, and if you have any comments, please feel free to post them below, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions. Thank you all again. I'm excited to be making more videos, so if you have a suggested video, please go ahead and shoot me a message. Thanks, guys.